Conversation with the entrepreneur who founded and grew a successful insurance business to an 8-figure valuation. In today's episode, the 6th of our podcast series, I'm delighted to speak to entrepreneur, consultant, philanthropist, author, and public speaker, Samantha Tradelius. Samantha's a natural go-getter. She's always harboured the belief that she was destined for significant accomplishments. With a brokerage license in hand and an innate talent for fostering connections, she embarked on her entrepreneurial journey alongside her husband. They established commercial coverage insurance agency, and from humble beginnings, the duo rapidly transformed CCIA into a highly successful business, boasting an impressive 8-figure valuation. Currently serving as the Vice President of Operations at LyteSpeed Learning, Samantha channels her deep passion for insurance education, catering to agents and brokers throughout California and beyond. This role holds particular significance for her as it was her family business, and it allows her to share invaluable real-life insights gained from her own years of earning insurance agencies. Never one to rest, Samantha authored and self-published a book, Impact: Stories of change makers, creators, and everyday women doing extraordinary work. She also hosts the growing weekly podcast, InspiHER'd. Samantha's commitment to supporting and uplifting women shines through every project she undertakes, reflecting her enduring mission to make a positive impact in the lives of those around her. Today, we explore with Samantha the story behind her business ventures. We also discuss her incredible work with the Sparkle Foundation, which has positively impacted over 10,000 single mums. It's an insightful conversation with an inspiring entrepreneur and philanthropist. We hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi, Samantha. It's really great to have you joining us on our podcast here today. How are you?
So good. So great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. And just for our listeners and our viewers, whereabouts are you based?
San Francisco, California
nice.
Girl.
Very nice. And look, normally I ask by asking our guests to give us a bit of an elevator pitch, but you wear so many hats. You're an award-winning philanthropist, you're a business owner for a variety of businesses, and you're also a speaker, amongst many other things. So could you just give us a brief overview of you and the many roles that you are currently holding?
All the different hats. Yes, buckle up, everybody. There's a lot. So I am a mother of 2 young teens, is my first big job that I always like to start with because that kind of sets the table. I have been in the risk management space for over 25 years. I, like you mentioned, am an award-winning philanthropist. I am an executive director and founder of an organization that serves single mothers here in California and Arizona in the States. I have written a book. I'm an educator. I speak. I am a huge supporter of all things She all the time. I feel like, and I have a podcast too. So those are just a few of the things I do.
Marvelous. And how old are the teens?
Gosh, one is 11 and one is 13, and I am in the thick of it.
Do you have boys, girls, one of
2
each?
girls.
Two girls.
Yes. And I say often, if I could make it through this stage in life, man, I can make it through anything.
Well, I have 2 girls as well. They're slightly older. One is 19. So she is making her way in the world and has left home. And the other one is 15. So okay. We've maybe been through some of the pain.
Woo! It's something else, but it's a dynamic moment to be able to experience in real time, but it's also really exhausting at the same time. So I know I sit in a seat that you have sat in yourself. So
Indeed.
It does get easier right here.
There is always joy as well. You got to, sometimes when it's a little challenging and you're being challenged, because that's what they want to do, then you have to remember that there is joy every day as well.
It's great. It's my best job and my hardest one by far.
Yes. Well, let's talk about the easier jobs then, outside of raising 2 teams. So 25 years ago, you set up the commercial coverage insurance agency. The business grew substantially to a point where you felt you could sell it, and sold it for a significant sum of money. So my second question is really around what gave you the idea to start that business, and how through your leadership did you create, such a successful organization?
Yeah, so insurance is, that risk management moment is a huge part of my life. It's where I started. My family owns an education facility for insurance, which is how I got into it. And I'm actually still very much involved in my family's business. As my parents are getting ready to retire, I'm coming back in. So, insurance is in our blood. And when I was about 23, I started an agency with my father, selling home and car insurance and small, business insurance. Ended up meeting my husband through insurance, who had just started his agency, commercial coverage. And so, when I met him, he was, you know, he had the big peacock feathers out and was, showing it off like he was some big guy. But what it really was him in his basement in the city. We had a loft in San Francisco and a gateway computer, and that was it. And that was
Right.
really how the company started. And I came in, met him 30 days into it, and we built out this incredible company, selling commercial insurance to property owners in San Francisco and all over the country, really. And so, in insurance, there's so many different things you can do. And what my husband was really successful with is like honing in on one area that he could be really good at and building that. And so that's really what we did. And we did it really well. And yeah, we were able to, I mean, when you grow up and start a business, everybody, that's the dream, right? To have something that you could sell and be able to say, yeah, like I did that. And 20 years later, we did it. And here we are.
Yeah.
Still selling insurance, though. We're still actively involved in the industry, just in a kind of a different capacity.
Yeah. I'm interested in that choice you made to sell the business because, you know, insurance is one of those good companies in that you get quite a lot of renewal business, year after year. If you look after your customers, if you look after the premiums and, pay your claims on time when needed, that can create a really strong book of repeat business. So, what tempted you to sell?
Well, I think there's a lot of different things that kind of went into it. I mean, the industry itself is challenging, and being a business owner is hard. When someone's dangling a carrot in front of you're like, well, is it worth it? Is it enough money that you could not have to work anymore? There was a lot of different things that went into the decision, and it was, we'd been called on. I mean, year after year. I mean, that's what larger firms do, is they kind of gobble up the smaller agencies.
Yeah.
And for years, we just weren't interested. And finally, one day, we took the call and it made sense. And so, the position that we went in was one that we could still be involved in the business until we didn't want to be involved in the business anymore.
Yeah.
And so just, not having to deal with the day to day boss stuff and just have to sell insurance is a whole lot. It's a whole lot of it's a different dynamic. It has its pluses and its minuses, but it's definitely been a transitional moment for both of us, for sure.
Yeah. And thank you. You mentioned earlier that your family business was educating, I guess, people within the insurance industry.
Mhm.
What sort of education does that cover then?
So we have a pre-licensing school. So we do all the licensing and continuing education for the Department of Insurance here in California. So when you want to get your insurance license, you need to do so many hours. We have that credentialed program. And then once you get your license, you have to keep up the license every 2 years with 24 hours of continuing education. I have taught insurance for my family's business since I was like 17 years old, when a teacher didn't show up to teach class. And I was like, I knew that's what put food on the family's table. So I walked in, and that was my first intro to insurance. I didn't know anything. And now when I come in and I teach a class, it's a much different conversation. I actually currently sit on the board for the Department of Insurance on the curriculum angle, helping to create, policy and the educational objectives, which is a pretty cool seat to sit in, because I'm helping to create, the next generation of what agents, will need to know. But yeah, I mean, we do all that stuff, and we do everything from, the real basic lines of general liability, the property, to some real fun stuff. Like I just recorded a podcast and a seminar with a professional expert on cannabis insurance and cyber insurance. And we're getting to like kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the things that aren't so, on the same line as everybody else. We're trying to be a little bit different.
Yeah. I work with a couple of insurance companies over here in the UK, so I'm sure they're very interested about this part of the business and your history and background. I mean, if you were to give insurance companies one or two tips, what would they be?
Well, I think there's two different angles. You have the company side, and then you also have the independent agent side. So we deal with the agents. And I can speak because I am an independent agent and I sell the products. you know, there's so many different ways to be successful in the industry and, keep the relevancy because it's a constant moving goalpost with technology. And, we're here in California and the market is a disaster with property insurance and liability. I mean, it's really hard to get insurance or it's really unaffordable in a lot of ways. So, keeping up with your education and the different products and being a little bit more educated yourself when you're speaking to your clients, I think is something that's super important right now. On the carrier side, I mean, the carriers are very different. I don't know. I really do feel like after COVID, the mindset of a lot of these insurance companies has shifted dramatically to where, the service isn't as great, the coverages aren't as great. There's a lot more no's than there are yeses. And so, trying to really navigate and understand the marketplace as a global situation because it's not just here in the States. I mean, what's affecting us here is also affecting you guys in the UK and Australia and everywhere else because we all work together when it comes to reinsurance and things. So it's real messy out there. It really
Yeah.
is, and it's dismal, but it's also a great time to make a good living if you can rise to the top as somebody who's an expert in your field. And that's what I really do, try to teach people is how to be smarter, better, like quicker and faster in their space because they can be really successful right now.
Yeah. Um, you've just provoked a thought around, customer service. I still see sometimes when you're trying to contact a customer service department, I'm not necessarily just talking about insurance, and on their page, it will say, "We do apologize, but due to COVID, you may experience longer waiting times."
You
And I
can't use
think,
that
come
anymore.
on, come on.
You can't use that anymore. I
No.
just had a situation where my car was at the shop for like 2 months. There was something wrong with it. And it just kept, and the guy goes, well, due to the supply chain and COVID. I go, buddy, that was 4 years ago.
Yeah,
That doesn't work. Okay.
yeah.
New excuse. New
Surely we've
excuse.
surely we've moved on from there.
Seriously.
So there's definitely a winning space for those that can deliver some good quality of customer service as well.
100%.
Um, let's move to your. I want to say S by Samantha. So this is now the catch-all brand for everything Samantha. Is that correct?
Yes. So in addition to my insurance world, in my sparkle world, there's also this other part of me that really has a lot of other fun things that I like to do. And I really like to support women in different capacities. And so it kind of became something in during COVID. And I was turning 40 and I was like, you know what, I want to write a book. And so I did. I wrote a book and I needed to create an entity to kind of be able to sell this book. So S was created, which then turned into a monthly blog, which I host, three female owned brands that I kind of talk about, why they're great, why you should get to know them. And I link up there to help support women in business. I have a podcast with my girlfriend, Stacy, where we just wrapped, I think we're on episode 200 just about. I mean, we've been interviewing women all over the world, 30 minutes once a week, talking about just incredible things from, makers, change makers, creators, just women that get up and do a little bit more than breathe. Um, and then I have, quarterly events where we get women together. And then I get asked a ton about, how to be involved in the insurance business. A lot of independent agents, or I'm sorry, captive agents are trying to move into the independent space, or they don't understand products that they need help with. And then also a lot on the nonprofit side. So, I mean, I was doing a lot of consulting in that right anyways. And then I just decided, you know what, let's just make it a little bit more of an offering. So the consulting's there too. And I mean, I kind of do, I used to really try to compartmentalize what I was doing, whether it was insurance me or nonprofit me or mom me or just me. And now I just kind of brought it all together. So it's my home base where you get all parts of me.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And I don't know if it's easy to pick a favorite kind of piece of work that you do in all of that. Is there, or do you like the mix?
Um, I like to mix it up a little bit. I think my foundation and my undertow is the same for everything that I do. And that was something that my girlfriend had brought to my attention with, she goes, why are you always separating? Because I used to only post business things on LinkedIn and sparkle things on my Facebook. She goes, everything that you do is the same narrative. It's just different ways of saying the same thing in different, capacities. So I would say my sparkle work is my most rewarding work because I think that when I can really see the end result. But when you get to sit down with a business owner and help her get where she wants to go, I mean, that is something I can't even explain because being in the seat of having to learn everything the real hard way to be able to help somebody not have to make those same mistakes. I mean, that's a pretty awesome role to play. So I don't know. I like it all.
Like it all, it's the mix. It's the mix that keeps it all interesting. I mean, how on earth you juggle all those things is I'm
You
sure a
don't.
challenge.
You don't.
Yeah.
I always love that when people, let's talk about work-life balance. I'm like, first
Yeah.
step, there is none. And
Yeah.
I always say it's like every day gets a little bit of a different version of me. So some days it's, a heavy sparkle day. Other days it's a big mom day, or it's an insurance me. And, it ebbs and flows. And I try to balance my days the best I can with who needs me where.
Yeah. And I always think when work doesn't feel like work, you don't really need a work-life balance. If work is a passion.
True. True. I will say though, there are days where I'm my insurance hat is on and I am like, this is the worst.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with horrible, you can't insure a property, or you've got a really difficult client, or the underwriter's being just a total pain. Those days are definitely days that feel like work, that I'm very happy that I'm kind of on the other side, to where I'm like, okay, listen, like
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I want to do this and because I enjoy doing this, not because like I need to put up with this craziness anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's those difficult days that build the resilience, don't they?
100%. It's those
Yeah.
tiger stripes. Like, you've got to fall, you've got to be stressed out, you've got to not know what way to go, what you're doing, because that is at the end of the day what builds you into the person that you're supposed to become.
Yeah. Well, if we could focus a little more on the Sparkle Foundation, um, what inspired you? And I think you said it was 8 years ago that you set up the Sparkle Foundation.
Yeah, so 21 years ago I started the gifting to single moms for Christmas as
Right.
kind of a legacy to my single mom grandma in the
Right.
1950s, who raised my dad, my aunt, and my uncle. So, a lot of how the programs and things have kind of happened has been very organic over the years. 8 years ago, I decided it was time to become a little more legit and form a full-blown 501c3 nonprofit here in the States. And so, yeah, that has grown, so much bigger than me, which is amazing. It's Christmas program, it's enrichment scholarships, it's micro loans, it's backpacks, it's Mother's Day gratitude boxes. We've touched over 10,000 lives in the last 8 years, bringing in over $2 million plus. 100% of every dollar comes in, goes back out, which is something I'm very proud of. Over 750 volunteers, and we've recently just opened our Phoenix location. So we have 4 major geographic areas that we serve, not only San Francisco Bay, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and now Phoenix, and rumblings of maybe Denver coming up. So my
Right.
goal is to have some Sparkle, chapters all over the country and the world. Um, as long as we've got boots on the ground that are willing to do the work. I mean, there are single moms all over that need us and our help. So we are here to serve them.
Brilliant. And really impressive. 10,000 lives positively impacted. I think that's I don't know if you've got any awards behind you that focus on this, but
I
maybe
do.
the
I've got a couple of here that have some Sparkle action. Recently was the bronze that we were talking about, the Jefferson Award, which is a big deal. It's kind of like an Academy Award in the nonprofit space. I never have ever thought of myself as a big deal. I just do the work because it makes me feel good, and I love to enable other people to do the same good, because doing good feels good.
yeah.
And to be recognized, for your efforts is a huge deal, and it's very humbling. So I have a wall of Slay, for those of you that can see behind. It's all the fun stuff that I get to participate in. I like to, sometimes I think, is it a little too much? And I'm like, no, you know what? I'm really proud of the work that I've been doing for these 20 plus years. So why not showcase it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's good to have that positive affirmation in our life, isn't it? So I'm sure it's not the external validation that drives you,
Yeah.
but it's nice. It's sometimes nice for someone to say, well, that was a good job, well done.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times, we don't celebrate the
Mm.
wins internally because, you're like, well, somebody might think it's my ego or I'm too cocky, but it's like you work hard, and so you should celebrate. And the people that are around you, you need to surround yourself with people that celebrate that, and you for them, you and you them. So that's the way I live my life.
Yeah. And I know you started very young, but I think you've had 25 years in business and also in the not-for-profit sector now as well. What are some of the keys to your personal success?
A lot of coffee, uh, a lot of swearing. No. I try to not take myself too seriously, right? I mean, and when I say not too seriously, I mean, I definitely take the roles that I have seriously, but I'm open to learning. I'm open to being aware of the things I'm not good at and putting those people around me that are good at those things. I'm also very in tune to the power of togetherness, and I've never been your boss. I've never been the boss in that way. Like I am the first one to sit down, on the floor and lick an envelope and take out the trash and have lunch. I mean, I've always thought of myself as one of the team, and I really think that that has been a huge success for me as a leader. Is that I've never thought of myself better than anybody, because I'm not. I mean, I may take different choices and make bigger jumps, but I'm there to be a part of the team and take the flag across the field together.
And in your experience, was there any mentor character or other kind of leadership person that you sought advice or help from?
I lean in on everything around me. No, I've got an incredible group of women in my life and family and even, my husband he's a very good sales guy and I've learned so much from him and he, we balance each other really well because I'm kind of good at all the other stuff. And so I listen a lot. I talk a lot, but I do listen and I do absorb and I'm the first one to go and ask for help or sit myself at a table around the people that I know can help me be the person I want to be.
Excellent, thank you. Um, you did mention earlier that you are the founder and host of your own podcast. Can you tell us a little more about that and what drove you to join the world of podcasting?
Because I needed something else to do. So this
Yeah.
was another COVID baby. When we were all sitting at home, not able to do anything. My girlfriend Stacy and I, we've been friends for 20 plus years. We thought we know so many incredible women that are doing just amazing stuff. So let's just interview our friends. And we didn't know what we were doing. We just hit Zoom, hit record, and off we went. And what it really turned into was people being able to tell their stories. Because unless you have had a huge hardship or have a huge platform, a lot of times these women's stories don't get told and they're doing incredible stuff, whether they're advocating for their, sick child or they've created a product or they're, moving the needle with different, social justice issues. I mean, it's big time stuff. So yeah, I mean, we just let her rip and here we are. Like I said, just recorded our episode like 190 something. And we'll be coming up on season 5 next year. And I don't know I don't know who we are, but here we're still doing it. We're having a great time.
Very good. What and forgive me, what's the title of it?
It's called InspiHER'd. So it's inspired, but at the end it's HER''D. You could find us on all major platforms. We post a new episode. It's 30 minutes. It's real, it's raw, it's unedited. It originally started because we didn't know how to edit. And I'm insurance, she's finance. Like neither of us we were like, we're not doing that. But then as we got going, like life itself is not edited. So why should we edit?
Yeah.
So we take out the ums and the awkward pauses, but as far as the content goes, it's always the same. And it's just real women telling their real stories.
Mm. Well, the ums and the ers I read are a necessary part of communication.
100%.
And all
But
they are
sometimes
is
it's awkward.
well, if you totally
As you
lose,
know.
yeah, indeed, indeed. But there's also a difference. If people or they it's a different neurological process that you're going through. And it's about searching for the word or searching for how to say the thing that you want to say. And I can't remember which way around it is, whether it's the or the for it. And also different cultures have slightly different ums and ers
Yeah.
around it. So yes.
I'm
Just
an and and I say like and the other one I always find myself saying is right at the end, like right, and I'm like, why do I always say that? But yeah, I mean, I think having the personal touch and not making it so scripted is also something that's kind of cool because, there's so much of that. And I think people being real and raw is so much more relatable.
I agree. I come across a lot of people who, the interference that gets in the way of them being even more successful is their pursuit of perfectionism. And it can be, really paralyzing to always feel that you have to be perfect in some way.
Well, they always say people do business with those that they know, like, and trust, right?
Yeah.
And so the first thing when you're, in any space. In insurance, I do a lot of, chats with different groups. They say be yourself, because you're your best commercial first and foremost, because there's lots of different insurance products, but they got to do business with somebody they like. That's the first thing. And make yourself relatable, because if you're so, out there in, in a Kardashian space that nobody can even come to your orbit, that's not helping you either. So I think there's a good balance.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you worked with your husband. I also worked with my wife, and you also had, your parents. You worked in their family business and have gone back into that. Have you got any tips for people who work with family members? And I'm not just looking for the personal support here.
It's tough. It's definitely tough. I grew up in family business, so for me, it was a safe space. It made sense to me. I remember my husband definitely struggled with it more, because it was like when we would leave, like we would always drive separate cars to work, mainly because I'd have to wait till the girls got to school or whatever. But it was always like that was our time by ourselves.
Yeah.
Because then you come home and then you're still talking about it. It's like nobody, I think, will ever have your back in the same way.
Mm.
But sometimes it's hard to like draw the line and say, okay, like we're home now. I don't want to talk about this, or you pissed me off at work and now you're pissing me off at home. Um, but I do think that once you get to a place where you really understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, it's dynamic what you can do. And so he and I still work together. I still sell insurance, he still sells insurance. And so we have some different roles, but it's really cool because nobody understands what he's going through like I understand, and vice versa. So it's a double-edged sword for sure. It's a hard line to walk.
Yes. Yes. Well, my own experience is similar. It can be the most brilliant thing, and it can be the most challenging thing as well.
Yeah, because you also know how to push each other's buttons
Oh yeah.
really well. So you're like, oh, really? Poke the bear a little bit. No, it when I was a lot younger, it was hard, because I'd find myself getting really frustrated. And then as I aged and really got to understand, his where he can, be a winner and where I can be a winner, it was like the moment that light bulb went off, I think was a real game changer for both of us.
Yeah. I remember my wife once saying, I was working for a company called Franklin Covey, who are famous for writing. Well, Stephen Covey was famous for writing 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
Hmm.
which many people may have come across. And I worked for that organization. A couple of months in, my wife said to me, I'm really curious about when you're going to become highly effective.
See?
That
I
was
know.
it. I
I
was in
know.
my
We
place.
we know how to jib and
Yeah.
jab like nobody's business. That is our job. It is, we're quite professional at that.
You mentioned earlier that you had written a book.
Mhm.
What was the title of the book, and what was the concept?
So it was when I was turning 40, it was kind of this milestone moment of a lot of self-reflection, because I was sitting, on lockdown here. Um, really what I was trying to create was understanding how I became this woman that I am today was really based upon these incredible people in my life, women that had, had different impacts on me. So the book is called Impact, and it's a story of incredible change makers. Everyone from my mother, my grandmother, to, women that were my mentors, women I admire, women that sit on my board. It was kind of a little bit of a love letter to these incredible women, sharing their story and how they impacted me and how they impact the world. Um, and it's interesting you mention it, because I am currently working on book 2. So the original idea was for it to be a 3-part series. So I did the first one, and then I wanted to do one every 2 years. So I've got 25 more women that I'm featuring now, and then I'll do another one, hopefully in another 2 years. So it'll be a set of 3 books, all called Impact, all, incredible change making women.
And where could people find this book?
You can find it on my website. If you buy it off my website, SamanthaTradelius.com, I will send you a hand signed copy. Or you can just get it off Amazon. That's easy too. You could just Google my name, and it'll pop right up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. And are there any other books or podcasts or videos that you would recommend people watch or read or listen to that, from a leadership perspective?
One of my favorite books of all time is called Raving Fans. And it is a book that is just basically, it's such a simple read. It's three principles. It's know what you're good at. No, it's know what your customer wants, know what you're good at, and give them the added experience. And that, I think, going back to like how we started talking about customer service, any service business, it is such an easy thing to hear, and it's such an easy thing to do, and you can be a winner every single time. And I can't tell you, I have like 10 copies of it. And anytime I have a horrible customer service experience, I will send someone a copy of the book. And I'll say, you should read this. And I actually had insurance customer service insurance carrier send me a note back and said, you know what? Thank you.
Yeah.
I needed that. Right.
Yeah.
Because it's an easy thing to do. And it's an easy thing that so many of us forget how to do. So that's like one of my favorite ones. And, there's always Good to Great. There's a ton of really great business books, but I feel like, the best advice or the best thing that has always really helped propel me is to put myself in situations around the people that I want to be around. So if I wanted to be around business owners, I would, attend the luncheon or the mixer or, the awards ceremony or whatever. I wanted to be around nonprofit people and really understand how this whole world I knew nothing about worked. I injected myself into the orbit because I wanted to learn. And I really feel like there's no book better than putting yourself in that experience and absorbing it personally, and sitting down at the table, pouring yourself a glass of water and listening and absorbing.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. It's interesting. I work with organizations, and I work with many salespeople in those different organizations. And it struck me last week while I was inside an organization and all these salespeople looking at their computer screens that the fun has gone out of sales in many regards. When I got into sales some 30 years ago, you traveled, you met interesting people, they had interesting, complex needs. You tried to create interesting solutions to those needs. You got sometimes some nice coffee, sometimes some terrible coffee, but that was part of the experience. You sometimes got to have dinner or a glass of wine or a beer with these people. And it was much more about the human connection. I think we've got to try and get some of that back. I think it's just too transactional at the moment.
100%. And I think all these different groups, and they're all great in their own right, because I work with a lot of them. Everybody's trying to sell everybody a bigger shovel,
Yeah.
to get the gold. And, when we get down to the basic element, I mean, it's people, it's connection. I actually met a woman. I was interviewed a girlfriend of hers, and she connected me with this other woman, and she had this insurance group out of Denver. And she was hosting a little summit. And so she was telling me about it. I said, I'll book a ticket. I'll come. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything, but I really wanted to see what insurance agents, women, were like in the middle of the country. So it was like Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. It was I mean, I know California, I know the East Coast, but I don't know anything about these women. So I went, and being in a room of 50 women that I didn't know anybody. I mean, I walked out of there and I made some friends that I'll have forever. I learned a completely different perspective. I learned about the things that concern them, and they're thinking about, and the types of insurance products they're selling. I mean, it was mind-blowing. And it was a day and a half of my time, and I
Yeah.
got more out of that than I would have gotten at attending any other seminar or webinar or whatever. So taking the time to learn a little bit something different, go do something different, put yourself in a different room. I think that's really, those are the secrets of success, and you're going to find that big shovel.
Yeah.
And that shovel's there. You got to go get it a little differently.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Well, for those that are interested in connecting with you or learning more about you and all of those different hats that you wear, where can people find out more?
It's super easy. It's all the W's, my name, SamanthaTradelius.com, and the same on all socials, just my first and last name. I figured it was long enough and weird enough you'd remember it.
Yeah.
And I'm, if you've got questions about anything, I'm definitely a good source. I'm here to help. I love supporting people, following their dreams and dream big, right? Because you're the only person that's going to make it happen.
Perfect. Samantha, thank you so much. I know you've got a very busy schedule and you've squeezed us into it, and we appreciate it. It's been a really insightful conversation, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your ideas with our viewers and listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
Hi. If today's conversation has resonated with you in any way and provoked some thoughts that you would like to add, then please do comment. We'd also like you to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can get updates on our new content, podcasts, and the other insights that we offer on a regular basis. If you'd like to contact me directly, please email me, steve@deltalearning.co.uk. I look forward to hearing from you.